Light it.
Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Rob Stowe, Mark Ingram II, Urban Meyer back here with you. We've been seeing more and more programs, whether it's in college basketball and obviously here in college football, hiring general managers for their football team. What exactly is a GM? What's their role? Great question. To answer some of those, we head out to Boomer Sooner country. We welcome in Jim Nagy, the general manager of the Oklahoma Sooners football team. Jim, thanks for joining us. And number one, all right, let's give you a snapshot. Your wife takes you out to some summer get-together in Norman, and you meet some people you've never met before, and they say, what do you do? And you go, I'm the Oklahoma football general manager. And they go, that's nice. What is that? What does that mean? I have no idea what a general manager does, and I'm sure it changes from school to school. But if you were to be asked, what do you do in Norman? Tell us what it is.
Yeah, I've been asked that a few times. Appreciate you guys having me on. I'll say this: there's no succinct way to sum it up because there's a lot of parts to this job. But really, here more than anything, to help the coaching staff, and help build this roster and streamline the process, and really bring. Everyone says they're trying to go to an NFL model, and yes, my background is in the NFL. I've never worked in college football before. But I think there's some process things that we've brought to Oklahoma that I think are going to help the evaluation process and certainly the valuation process. We've never had to really value players. So again, it's going to be a really fun collaboration. It already has been over the last 3 months, just getting in the building with the coaches. Certainly been energizing for me. I've been out of a football building for the last 7 years running the Reese's Senior Bowl. So just getting around coaches and players again has been awesome. It's been a big move moving from the state of Alabama out here to Oklahoma, but more than anything, just helping out this coaching staff, and they've been really receptive. We're trying to make their jobs easier in places. These college coaches got a lot on their plates. I think the biggest part right now that people are forgetting is that there's an actual retention part of the job, right? Like Coach Meyer used to get guys on campus and you basically had them, you had them for 4 or 5 years, and now that's not the case. So, we can get into it, kind of how we're doing that and how we're buying more time for our coaches to do their jobs. But yeah, man, we're just here to support the coaches and build this roster.
Hey, Jim, thanks for joining us. And I don't know if I even told Rob and Mark this, but I had a school come see me this year and asked if I wanted to be the GM and a couple other phone calls. And you start to think, okay, they actually came to see me. And so I said, yeah, we'll meet and I'll sit down with you guys. And I said, okay, what is the job description? They said, well, basically you handle all the, you meet with all the agents of the 17, 18-year-olds. And I thought, I'd rather step on a rusty nail and pull it out I mean, what in the, but if that's what you got to do, Jim, God bless you, brother. But what is the I think a lot of people are asking, what's the hierarchy in college football, kind of generally? Is it athletic director, GM, coach, athletic director? Once again, I think it's probably different, but what's the hierarchy that you expect?
Yeah, it is. It varies. It varies by school. Again, I actually spoke to a couple schools in the offseason before I took the job at Oklahoma, and again, part of it was the structure. That's what drew me to Oklahoma, because it is going to be a true split structure between Coach Venables and myself, and we're going to work in tandem. And when I came out for the interview, I mean, I tried to be really intentional with my communication with Brent that, if we move forward, we got to be on the same page. Being in the NFL, that's truly the most critical relationship in the building in my mind, general manager and head coach, and, really stripping the ego out of it. And, I said to Brent when we're, in terms of putting this roster together, I went all the way back to 1996 when I was, an intern with the Green Bay Packers. And I had the good fortune of driving our general manager, Ron Wolf, from Green Bay to Milwaukee one day. There's not a lot of flights going in and out of Austin Straubel Airport in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So we had a little road trip, and I'm 22 years old, 21 years old, whatever I was. A little intimidated during the car ride with the future Hall of Fame GM. But as he was getting out, I asked him, I said, Mr. Wolf, do you have any advice for, a young guy like me if I ever am fortunate enough to be in a position like yours? And he said, don't ever force players on your coaches. And I've always taken that to heart. And so that was part of the conversation that Coach Venables and I had when I came up for the interview. There's a lot of high school players out there. It's we're going to be in lockstep with who we're bringing on this football team. So the nice thing with our new scouting staff is we're going to have layers and layers of cross check, which that's one thing I don't think has existed in college football before. The assistant coaches have had all the autonomy to go out and recruit the guys they want to recruit and watch the tape, and ultimately it's been the head coach's decision on who you take and who you build the roster around. So we're just bringing that structure. We're bringing a grading system, which most college programs don't have. So that's where I think we're going to have value. And again, really more than anything, it's the manpower. So we're going to have a staff of 8, 9, 10 guys watching tape that are experienced, proven evaluators. And again, I don't think there's a lot of schools in college football that have that. I don't know if there are any right now. I think there's probably some that will go in that direction. But the great thing is the buy-in. The coolest part of the job so far has been the buy-in from the assistants, right? Like, I didn't want to come in here and just blow this thing up, watching tape and maybe not agree with where they were at with some of their assessments on players. We haven't done that. These guys have worked really hard on the 2026 class, but there have been some times where we've had to finesse it and pivot a little bit, right? And get on some new players. And the coolest part is they have taken that and ran with it. And we've gotten some commitments here already in June from players that we didn't get on until a month or two ago. And I credit the coaches because they went after them and they recruited their tails off. And that's always going to be a big part of this. Like, we can evaluate the players, and I have a great belief in our new staff's ability to do that and find value. But at the end of the day, you still have to recruit them.
Yeah.
You still got to love them up. You still got to make these guys feel like Oklahoma is going to be their home. So, sorry to get long-winded, but that's kind of where we're at right now with everything.
Yeah, no, Jim, we appreciate your time, man. New role, GM, that's great. But you were running the Senior Bowl and built it to the top college all-star game. Why do you pick Oklahoma, and why this position?
I thought you were going to go there, Mark.
Yeah, you left the great state of Alabama to go to Oklahoma, man. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, man, it's my wife's hometown, Mobile, Alabama. So yeah, I mean, it was a hard decision to leave the Seattle Seahawks when I did back in 2018. That was a great organization, really incredible culture with Pete Carroll and John Schneider. But that was a family decision. That was really, my son was in 8th grade. He was getting ready to play all his high school sports, and I was going to miss all that. Being a scout, you're on the road a couple hundred nights a year. So that was really a family thing. And then, we worked our tails off at the Senior Bowl. It always been the best all-star game, but, we felt like there was some improvements to be made. And I think we took that thing to another level. Really proud of what the staff did there over the last 7 years. But then, when the phone rang, I interviewed for the Jets GM job back in December. Obviously didn't get that, but that was a really cool opportunity. And then the phone did ring from some college programs, and I'd never even thought about working in college. My goal from the time I was a little kid was to work in the National Football League, and again, fortunate to have been able to do that for a couple decades. So the plan was maybe to get my daughter through high school down there in Mobile. She's got 2 years left. This was not an ideal time to make the move. I mean, to tell your 16-year-old who grew up in the same house and has her group of friends that she's now moving to Oklahoma. I didn't. So this decision wasn't made lightly, man, at all. But again, it was Oklahoma. Yeah. And so when I came on the visit and met the people, and you walk in the building downstairs, similar to Mark, where you were at, and Coach, where you were at Ohio State and Florida, you walk in the door and there's all these 7 national championship trophies and 7 Heisman trophies. Like, everything has been done at Oklahoma. We know we can do it here, right? And I believe in scouting. I believe in my profession. I love my profession. I know the value of scouting, and I know what that can add to a great coaching staff that we already have here. So that's really what it was. I wasn't going to make this jump to a level I never really intended to work, right, unless we were going to win at a really high level. We plan on winning championships here. So I felt like this was a place that could do it, where we could do it. And now here we are.
Thank you.
Jim Nagy, the general manager of the University of Oklahoma football program. You talk about value. Back in the days, and even today, one way to value players, he's a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. You talk about how we value players. So tell us what that process is for you guys to come up with the valuation.
Sure. We've got a grading scale we're going to stick to. We've got a, in the NFL, there's a numbers-based grading scale. There's a color-based scale. I think the color-based is a little easier for everyone to get on the same page on. So that's what we're going with here, and that's going to also dictate how we spend on players as well. You vary too much from, if you don't have a structure in place, you're going to be all over the place with paying players, and then the next thing you know, you're going to be over the cap. So the cap was just put in place here recently with the revenue share, where it's all guaranteed money. So yeah, it's good. We're going to value it just like we would in the National Football League, and that's where you find your value. I think. Mark, what were you coming out of high school? Were you a big time 5-star guy? I didn't follow that stuff.
I was 3 stars. I had a big senior year. I got an Alabama offer, and then that's how I got my 4th star. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So again, I respect everyone that works at those services to put the stars on guys. I really do. I mean, they have hard jobs to do as well. But we're not going to pay any attention to that. I think what we saw this spring, which I think was a really good way to do it, is we graded the players on our new scale. And then when you get to OV season is when you see where you can get value, right? Because I think what's going to set the market for a lot of these players in terms of what they're being paid and what agents expect to be paid is the star system, right? I think 5 stars want to get paid like 5 stars.
Right.
So when you get into the OV season, we might have the same grade on a 5-star and a guy that's a 3-star. And when you look at where they're taking their OVs to, if they're going to Ohio State and Oregon and Texas A&M, that's going to be a certain market, right?
Right.
But then if the same graded player is getting offers from some group of 5 schools, we know where what direction we're probably going to go, because you're looking for that value. And if you look at National Football League rosters and dig back into their high school backgrounds, man, that league is littered with 2- and 3-star players.
Yes.
So they're out there.
Yes.
Again, it's just we need to identify those guys and trust our evaluation. So that's really not to share too much of the trade secrets there, but that's how we're going to attack it.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up with this one. And Coach, you know where I'm coming with this. I know, Coach, when you were out on the road, you saw dudes that maybe had a 2-star or a 3-star, but you're like, I can see his heart. I can see his grit. I can see his leadership, right? Like, that's just something I think, I don't know what it is, but you know it when you see it. Is that fair, Coach?
Yeah, it's a mindset. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and there's a mindset grade.
Yeah. How do you find that and put that into your evaluation to value a certain player?
Yeah, Rob, that's probably going to be the hardest thing for me because I'm used to being on the road. I'm used to being those boots on the ground and, in the buildings. I've been in Coach Meyer's building, a million times when he was coaching, and you develop those relationships with the coaches. And so you can trust what they say about their players. And then you go to practice and you let your eyes do the work, right? You observe things. So that's going to be the hardest part, but that's all educating this coaching staff. And they've been doing it. They know what to look at. But again, maybe sharing some of our experiences from the way we attacked it in the NFL. But there's no doubt about it. We just had a young man here on an official visit recently who'd lost his father. And real recently, and to sit across from him, he's in a room with 3 guys with 60 years of NFL experience, myself and a couple of our assistant GMs, and he's opening up about that experience and how he wants to play for his dad in the fall. And man, that stuff's powerful. Yeah. That stuff's really, really powerful. And going back to my time in Seattle, Pete Carroll's big thing was like finding guys that have been through adversity. If we got to the combine, that was his first question he shot at every player was, talk to me about the roughest thing you've ever been through and how you worked through it. So yeah, we're going to value that. We're not just going off the tape. We're not, we're really going to value what our coaches, when they go on the road and they go into these high schools and they see what they see and hear what they hear, that's going to be a huge part in our evaluation process as well.
Well, Jim, good luck with the new gig. I know there's a lot riding on this season in Norman. We wish you well. And listen, if there's one thing you accomplish this summer, you find your way to Coach Stoops' house. All right, that's got to be your goal. We'll put in a good word for you. That's the place to be in Norman, Coach Stoops' Castle. It's the best. Jim Nagy, General Manager, University of Oklahoma Football Program. Thanks, Jim. Have a great summer.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Light it.